in the last 14 centuries of this ummah, there has been a scholar in almost every single century saying that it is the consensus of the ummah, the scholars of his time, that this is impermissible. The consensus, the unanimity of scholars in their time deem it as impermissible. It is not a joke. Take with me now the 3rd century. We have Imam Zakaria ibn Yahya as-Saji, who said that it is the consensus of the scholars of my time that this is impermissible. Move on to the 4th century. You have Imam al-Ajurri rahimahullah said that this is the consensus of the scholars, it is impermissible. Move on to the 5th century. You have Abu Tayyib al-Tabari and Ibn Abd al-Barr, who said it is the consensus of our scholars in our time that it is impermissible. Move on to the 6th century. You have Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi al-Hanbali, who said it is the consensus of the scholars in my time that it is impermissible. Move on to the 7th century. You have Ibn Salah and Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam and Imam al-Qurtubi, may Allah have mercy on them, who said it is the consensus of the scholars of our time that it is impermissible. Move on to the 8th century. You have Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim and Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, may Allah have mercy on them, who said it is the consensus of the scholars that this is impermissible. Move on to the 9th century. You have Al-Iraqi and Al-Bazzazi al-Hanafi, who said it is the consensus of our scholars at our time it is impermissible. Move on to the 10th century. You have Ibn Hajar al-Haytami, who said the same thing. Even not too long ago in the 13th century, the author of this book here, Hammuda al-Alusi, he said it is the consensus of the scholars of our time that it is impermissible. And what is amazing is that when you look into the locations of where these scholars came from, it wasn't just from Saudi Arabia. It wasn't just from a strict country, as they put it. Where was Al-Qurtubi from, who said it is the consensus? From Al-Andalus. Al-Fasi, where was he from? From Morocco. Al-Maliki. Yeah? Al-Tahtawi and Ibn Hajar from Egypt. You have Al-Iraqi and Al-Alusi from Iraq. And you have others as well from Turkey who have said that it is the consensus, including Ibn Hajar and Ibn Taymiyyah, and Ibn al-Qayyim and Ibn Qudama, who are from Ash-Sham, from different parts of the world, who are saying that this is the consensus of our scholars of our time, that it is impermissible. Rather, there is no less than 50 scholars of Islam all throughout the 14th century who have said that it is the consensus of our scholars of our time that it is impermissible. So you know, when you hear something like this, you have to ask yourself, I mean, what do we have left? Well, you have the 4 madhahib, the 4 schools of thought. They are also unanimously agreed that when musical instruments and singing come together, it becomes impermissible. Imam Malik rahimahullah, when he was asked about the singing of the people of Medina who think that it is permissible, what did he say? He said, إِنَّمَا يَفْعَلُهُ عَنْدَنَا الْفُسَّاقِ. It is the very sinful people who do this, in my opinion. Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, when he was asked by his son, what do you say about singing? He says, يُنْبِتُ النِّفَاقَ فِي الْقَلْبِ. It brings hypocrisy in the heart. Ibn al-Qayyim says that it is known in the madhab of Abu Hanifa, Imam al-Shafi'i, that all types of instruments are forbidden, particularly in the Hanafi fiqh, whereby they said that even al-qadib, al-darbu bil-qadib, hitting stems, stalks together, this is impermissible, including the drum. What do you have left? Let me tell you something, right? I know it's not from the wisdom to speak about such matters on a public platform, but unfortunately everybody is speaking about it anyway. The layman today, who doesn't know his deen, who doesn't have any grounding in the sciences of Islam, he's saying, Ibn Hazm says it is a mu'allaq hadith. What do you know about the mu'allaq hadith? In fact, how many hadith can you recite? Give me just 100 hadith that you can give me in Arabic with their chains of transmission. That would be even better as well. We don't know the basics of our deen, but subhanAllah, we know this particular area of discussion very well. Why? Why do we hold on to this particular opinion? Why? Ibn Hazm rahimahullah has many other views that are very erroneous, as the scholars have said. But nobody works with those. No, we only want to work with this opinion that the hadith of Bukhari is mu'allaq, so musical instruments are okay. Why? Because there is a desire that we're working with. Because you have an interest involved, and that is music. Is that right? This is a situation. Ibn Hazm says, for example, that the saliva of a kafir is filthy, is najis. Everything about the body of a disbeliever is filthy. This is what he says. Do we work with this? Of course we don't. We now go tell our brothers who are married to Christian sisters that don't go kiss your wife because her saliva now is filthy? Of course not. Nobody works with that opinion, but we want to work with the one about music. Ibn Hazm, he says, it's not allowed for you to urinate in stagnant water, but it's okay to defecate in it. Do we work with that? Ibn Hazm says that the sa'i between As-Safa and Al-Marwa is not 7 times, it's actually 14 times. Who works with that? Nobody. But why is it that we stick with this mas'ala? Of course, Ibn Hazm, he is a mujtahid. He is a scholar who has the credentials and tools to come up with such opinions, even if they're wrong, and Allah inshallah will reward him for it, as we shall show inshallah. We are finding excuses for Ibn Hazm. But those who are not excused are the ones who come after him, who know now what is right and wrong, and they still hold on to Ibn Hazm's views. Now the hadith, which is apparently mu'allaq in Sahih al-Bukhari, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani has taken this hadith, طيب, which is mu'allaq. And other ahadith in the Sahih which are mu'allaq, and he has proved in his book Taghliq al-Ta'liq that all of these ahadith are fully connected. There is nothing wrong with them. They are entirely authentic. Rather, the chain of transmission of this hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari that we quoted about musical instruments becoming permissible at the end of time, this chain of transmission was narrated from 9 other chains of transmission. Every single one of them is mawsul, connected and perfectly authentic. And this was they were deemed as authentic by Imam al-Bukhari and Ibn Hibban, al-Ismaili, Ibn al-Wazir, Imam Amir al-San'ani, Imam al-Nawawi, Ibn Kathir, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim, al-Iraqi. These are 10 names. Furthermore, when we look into the book of Ibn Hazm al-Ihkam, we find that the principles that he used to judge the hadith of Bukhari and deem it as weak contradicts his own principles in how to deal with the mu'allaq hadith. Rahimahullah. Rahimahullah. Furthermore, those brothers and sisters who posit that this is simply a matter of difference of opinion, why are we making a big deal over it? Come on, man, you have some who say permissible and others who say impermissible. Why are you making a big deal? Despite the overwhelming majority that you just heard me quote a moment ago, who said that it is impermissible, let us assume for the sake of argument that it is a difference of opinion, via the handful who have said otherwise. Why don't these brothers and sisters ever tell us the third opinion involved in this mas'ala, in this topic? Have you ever heard what the third opinion is? The third opinion says that the one, you have to be very careful with what you're about to hear now. The one who deems singing and musical instruments coming together as permissible بعدما أقيمت عليه الحجة وفهمها, after somebody has spoken to him and explained to him clearly what is right and what is wrong, and he understood what they were saying, but insists that they are permissible, this person is kafir. This person is a non-Muslim. And that wasn't mentioned by a contemporary miskeen. This was mentioned by Ibn Taymiyyah. This was mentioned by Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi al-Hanbali. This was mentioned by Al-Qadi Iyad al-Maliki. This was mentioned by Al-Bazzazi al-Hanafi, and by others. Although Abdul Aziz al-Tarifi, a contemporary scholar of Islam, have said that I do not lean to this opinion. I am not inclined to it at all. But he says, nevertheless, this is an opinion that exists and it is serious. Now, why would a Muslim put himself in that situation? For what? For music? Are we that attached? No, the Muslim would not risk the happiest thing and the most beautiful thing that he has, and that is the gift of Iman, because of a silly thing like music. No, not at all. I mentioned this, brothers and sisters, not to blame Ibn Hazm rahimahullah, not to speak against him. Rather, I say for myself at least that I'm not even a hair on his chest or a bent nail in his foot. This is a man, a Rabbani scholar, a great alim, who dedicated his life to study al-ilm and teaching and worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a child like me has no authority to say anything against him. So what we are doing, in fact, is making excuses for Ibn Hazm because he was speaking according to the knowledge that has reached him. And at the same token, those who come after him, they do not have the same excuse now. Because they have heard what is right and what is wrong. And they know that the ahadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, it has no doubt with regards to it. So what basis are we still clinging on to his opinion? Ibn Hazm rahimahullah had very erroneous views. In fact, Imam al-Zayla'i and Ibn Abdul Hadi and Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani in his Fath have mentioned that Ibn Hazm rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, wasn't actually that strong when he came to the study of the transmission of hadith, and he had mistakes. He would say that a lot of the ahadith in Bukhari and Muslim are fabricated. It's a strange thing to say. He deemed a person like Abu Isa at-Tirmidhi, he deemed him as majhul, unknown. He said he's an unknown narrator, we don't know who he is. Because the book of Sunan at-Tirmidhi only came to Al-Andalus where he lived after he died. He deemed certain narrators of hadith as unknown, like Ya'la ibn Murrah, and Ya'la ibn Murrah is a companion. He says Ya'la ibn Murrah is majhul, we don't know who he is. So this hadith is weak as well. But he's a well-known companion. These are excuses for the Imam, but we are not excused for those who came after him.